We now know how to solve systems of equations using algebra, which is, we decided, a far more efficient and more reliable method than doing it with graphing. So now that we know how to do that, let's see if we can use this with real world application problems. All right. I think the hardest thing you'll find about all of this is just writing the equations to get started. So I'm going to try and break that down for you a little bit so you don't get quite so confused. So our first one is 7 people went to the movies. The number of adults was 1 more than the number of children. Write and solve a system of equations that represents the situation. All right, so we got to look at what are unknown quantities. In other words, what we're going to have an x and a y here, all right? Well, if you look at the equation or look at the problem, it says number of adults. So I don't know how many adults there are, so that's 1. So we can say that's x. We'll say that's number of adults. And then the other one is, if you read just a little further, is the number of children. All right, so there are 2 things that kind of jump out at you when you read this problem that you want to figure out. All right, and I know 7 people went to the movies. So honestly, it's as simple as this. I don't know who went to the movie. I don't know if they were adults or if they were children, but I know that there were 7 altogether. So I know that there was some combination of adults and children, that when I add them together equals 7 people that went to the movies. So that's my first equation, all right? I know that gives me my total number of people, and it's some combination of them. And then with my next equation, all right, it says the number of adults was, all right, so adults is x, the number of adults was 1 more than the number of children. So y plus 1. Number of children is y, and then it's 1 more. So there's my 1 more, my plus 1. All right? And now it's just a matter of just doing some simple substitution. So I know that x is equal to y plus 1, and that is in not slope-intercept form, but it is in a form that's close to it where we have one variable solved for us already, which is what we need. So we're going to take this y plus 1 and we're going to put it in this equation for x. So wherever you see x, we're going to put y plus 1. So we're going to go y plus 1. So that's this part right here. And then write the rest of the equation out as it is, plus y equals 7. All right, so y plus 1 plus y equals 7. You get 2 y's because these get added together, plus 1 equals 7. You want to get the 2y by itself, so let's subtract 1 from each. And then you get 2y equals 6. And therefore, y equals 3 because we'll divide both sides by 2. All right, so if I have 3 children, that means I must have 7 adults because 7 total people went, right? So I'm going to have 3 children and 7 adults. And we're good to go. So these aren't super complicated. It's just you have to slow yourself down enough to try and cipher through what they're telling you with the information they're giving you. All right, let's look at one more. Mr. Thomas cooked 45 hamburgers and hot dogs at a cookout. All right, so let's just say x is hamburgers. So we're defining our variables. We want to find out how many hamburgers and how many hot dogs, I bet, right? He cooked twice, right, and solve a system of equations that represents the situation. So that's where we're at. We've got hamburgers and hot dogs, and I know he cooked 45. I don't know how much of each, but x plus y equals 45. So there's some combination of hamburgers and hot dogs that Mr. Thomas cooked that equals to a total of 45. And then they tell us the second bit of information. He cooked twice as many hot dogs as hamburgers. All right? So that means if he cooked 12 hamburgers, he cooked 24 hot dogs. If he cooked 10 hamburgers, he cooked 20 hot dogs. Because the hot dogs is always 2 times the amount of the hamburgers. So basically, write that equation out. The hot dogs, y, is equal to 2 times the amount of hamburgers. And that's how you get your second equation. And then once you have that, I know that y equals 2x right here. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to substitute it into that equation for y. So we'll have x plus, and then instead of writing y again, we're going to write 2x equals 45. And then start combining things together and see what you can figure out. X plus 2x is 3x. We're going to divide both sides by 3, and we get x is equal to 15. So that means that he made 15 hamburgers. All right, so 15 burgers. And then he made hot dogs, right? And we know that it was twice as many hot dogs as hamburgers. Well, if he made 15 hamburgers, he made 2 times 15 hot dogs, which is 30. So he made 30 hot dogs and 15 hamburgers. And you are finished. So I hope me going through this kind of helps you with this, breaks it down a little bit, so that moving forward, you are throwing yourself at those word problems. Thanks.